Mindfulness meditation is one of the most popular religious practices which has been secularized in the Western world. Apps like Headspace and Calm have made a substantial dent in the way people relate to mental health. But is mindfulness meditation actually good for you? Is it good for your mental health? Or can it lead to problems like emotional detachment, indifference, or dissociation? This is what we'll be exploring today. Let me give you a bit of background as to why I'm making this video. About 5 years ago, I downloaded the Headspace app and started meditating. Meditating allowed a great deal of autonomy over myself. It made it easier to find calm in moments of stress, and it improved my attention significantly. As someone with ADHD, after a few months of meditation, I was able to focus on things which simply were impossible to maintain even a minute of interrupted attention. Things like philosophy books with long sentences and arguments with several tangents. Meditation helped me keep track of all of these arguments. Meditation was going very well for me until I saw the infamous interrogation footage of Stephen McDaniel, which I'll show on the screen right now. In the video, we can see Stephen sitting perfectly still in what appears to be in a state of dissociation. This led me down a rabbit hole into looking at just what dissociation is. A dissociative state is basically one in which a person is detached from reality. A person sort of observes reality without engaging with it. One feels disconnected from their thoughts and emotions. Now, of course, I'm not saying that meditation will turn you into a murderer, but the eerie stillness of dissociation in that footage made me question what prolonged detachment from emotion could do to a person. When meditating, we practice the pure observation of thoughts and feelings. We train ourselves not to interact with them, but to observe them, making the gap between our perception and our feelings greater and greater each time we sit down to meditate. It wasn't until I found a series of peer-reviewed papers and books on the subject that I really took this problem seriously. Here's the problem. Meditating definitely helped me in ways no pills or therapies or habits have ever had, especially when it comes to attention. Giving meditation up was plain and simple not an option. But I did not want to end up in a dissociative state in which my thoughts and feelings just didn't matter to me. I needed to find a way to have my cake and eat it too. This is where I discovered Kierkegaard's concept of the self and despair. Kierkegaard opened my eyes when it came to what a self is. He posits that while we think that we are experiencing raw reality, we are really in a state of relation with reality. This relation is something that is structured to relate to itself. That is to say, we walk through life with a constant awareness of ourselves, and we have a certain relationship with ourselves. Bear with me. This will all make sense soon, I promise. When we relate to ourselves, we are constantly aware of our dreams and aspirations, but we don't know where our limitations lie. Some of us are pragmatic and live in the real world. Some others are dreamers and they live in a dream world. Regardless, the failure to balance these two and to live life to the most calibrated potential leaves us in a state of despair. The state of despair is usually an underlying reality that only bothers us every once in a while. Times of uneasiness or the inability to just sit there in silence are good indicators that we live in despair. Despair, though, is not a net negative. On the contrary, it points to the fact that there is a misalignment in our spirit, and it acts as a guide that can help us understand ourselves more until we find the perfect balance between the finite and the infinite. This is where meditation comes in. More specifically, kierkegaardian meditation. While kierkegaardian meditation is not a thing, it is something that we can still formulate to continue our meditation practice without running the risk of dissociation, and with the ability to practice a more focused and clear self-reflection. Kierkegaardian meditation is subtly different from mindfulness meditation, specifically in the distance that we put between ourselves and our thoughts. Instead of merely observing our feelings and thoughts, I posit we approach them with a sort of attached curiosity, with a clear goal of learning about our self. What is this self? Where did it come from? What does it think? How does it love? But not with a scientific approach, but with a love-like approach. Kind of when you're on a first date and are keen to find out more and more about the person you've struck a chord with. This, I think, is the antidote to the clink in the armor of mindfulness. One last thing. I consider it a disservice to talk about Kierkegaard without mentioning God. Kierkegaard, rightfully so, posits that any relation to the relating of the self has to be a relation with that which established the self. This is a crucial aspect of mindfulness. Whether you have preconceived notions as to what this being is, or whether you have no idea, it is worth inquiring about its presence and your relationship with that presence. I hope the mystical approach I have employed here does not alienate you, but allow you to consider alternatives to how you approach meditation. In the end, kierkegaardian meditation is not about being detached from your feelings. It's not about merely observing them. It's about looking at them with an attached curiosity. To look at the self, to figure out how we think, and to figure out whether we can have a connection, whether we can have a relationship with that which established us. I also should mention that this relation could very well just be a psychological trick that we have on us. That this relation with something greater than us could very well be just a psychological illusion that we place on us. But this illusion is a very interesting aspect of reality. This illusion is not just in the faith of Christians or in the imagination of children, but it is also in the faith of adults. The faith that a man has on his wife is based on an illusion, something that he can't really know for sure, and yet he has this faith about it. So Kierkegaardian meditation, while might seem like an illusion, and well, it is an illusion, it is not delusional. I'll probably make a video on that soon, but in the meantime, happy mindfulness.